Welcome to the Green Wasp Removal YouTube channel. In this episode, we're going to show you a removal job we did out at a private residence in the countryside. These were all beneficial native paper wasps that we would typically recommend that people leave in place because they don't do any damage to the structure. But this residence had a family member who would visit that had venom allergies, so they had to remove all of them. They didn't have any choice. As you see here, we used a specially rigged tool, which is a long extendable pole with a bracket put on the end of it that helps us scrape away nests from high roof peaks and other places. And then wherever we could reach them by hand, we'd remove the old nests. Like you see here, there were many hatched out nests from previous seasons, but we also found a couple of brand new spring nests with new spring foundresses. Those are the queens that work together to build a new nest. These often had brand new eggs, so they were collected for relocation. We always like to try to relocate these nests and give them a chance to live. We'd also collect whatever other wasps we can reach, such as here. This is a foundress sitting on an old nest that had hatched out from last year, and what they'll often do is build a new nest right on top of the old nest, so that's probably what she was doing here. So we collected those when we could find them and reach them. Once we had all the live wasps that were reachable contained in transfer containers, we brought them back to the barn lab and we set them up in new habitats, and we'll show you what that process looks like. As you see here, you can take a paper wasp nest and separate it from the foundresses and check it out from the inside. Make sure that it looks healthy, as this one does. There's eggs in every cell. It's a very active nest. So these are the type of nests we like to relocate. Typically we'll use a hot glue gun and some type of vespiary box or repurposed birdhouse, as you see here, and we'll just mount it right inside there. Once it's mounted, we can reintroduce the foundresses to the nest, and we'll show you what that process looks like. For example, this one here, we had 2 foundresses. We knocked them out with a little CO2 gas. This temporarily puts them down long enough for us to mark them so that once they come to, we can then monitor their progress as they build the nest, and we can distinguish between the new wasps on the nest and the original foundresses. We put them into the vespiary box while they're still unconscious, and when they wake up, they'll walk right up to their nest. Then we go ahead and we mount that vespiary box right up on our vespiary wall at the barn. Here we have another of the wasps that we collected on site, and we brought her back for relocation, and we're putting her directly into a barn wall vespiary box, and she just walked right in. So hopefully she'll stay and build her nest there. And we'll give you updates on these new relocations throughout the season. A few days later, we checked on them on May 17th, 2025. Using the scope cam, we went right up inside the vespiary box just to check and make sure they found their nest okay and they were roosting comfortably. Looks like they did. Here you see one of the foundresses, the marked foundress, and the other one's probably out foraging. We'll also go over some of the PPE we use in the field. That's personal protective equipment, like a sun shirt to block UV rays when you're out in the sun all day. Also, neck fans to keep your body cooler when you're working in the sunshine and the heat. And also hearing protection, because we use a lot of vacuum extraction devices, and that can be very loud and can damage your hearing over time if you don't protect your ears. We wear tall boots, long pants, because we're often working in pretty thick vegetation or tall grass, as you see here. And there is some very serious tick-borne illnesses you can get if your skin is exposed at all in these environments. Lyme disease is a serious risk for anyone who works in an environment like this. So we're going to show you a real-world example from a different property where we were monitoring a honeybee swarm trap that you see here. And we always take precautions against potential tick-borne illness. As you see here, we lay down a blue tarp on the workspace to cover up a lot of the vegetation and make it easier to see anything crawling towards you. Tall boots, jeans, all our gear is on the tarp, and that precaution paid off right here. Here we find a very dangerous insect. This is a tick called a deer tick. It's attached to a larval stage moth or a worm. Here we set it on a leaf so we didn't lose track of the thing. It's currently drinking the blood of this worm, and this tick is so tiny, about the size of a sesame seed, we could barely see it. And this is the sort of thing that is posing such a risk to people in the field. If it wasn't drinking the blood of this worm, it would be on our skin if we had left our skin exposed. This thing literally was found inches from where we were working. This worm was trying to escape the tick, but the tick stayed embedded in it and just kept moving along with the worm while it was drinking its blood, and this is exactly what it would do to humans. So we separated the tick from the worm, and we tracked it and killed it with a leaf, not touching it, and then cleaned up the whole area with rubbing alcohol from our med kit. These are the sorts of things you have to be prepared for when you work in the field. and this is why we share it with our viewers. Had it not been for this worm, that tick would have ended up on us if we'd left any skin exposed. That's why we stay covered in the field. Tall boots, full pants, light colored tops so you can see anything walking on your body. These are some basic safety protocols that we're going to share with our viewers because it's important. You need to be careful out there. We encourage anyone who wants to get into this business or DIY it on your own to use this type of gear, so that's why we share it with our viewers, and we hope you'll go ahead and use this type of thing yourselves. For now, let's take you back to May 12th, 2025, and we'll take you through the whole process of the removals at this site and the relocation setups that we did with some of the new foundresses we captured. As always, we appreciate you riding along with us. If you enjoy the content on our channel, please do remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment to let us know you're there. Enjoy the show. May 12th, 2025. We were called to a private residence that's having trouble with too many paper wasps out in their backyard area. So we're going to go ahead and remove about 14, 15 different paper wasp nests today to help this client regain their backyard. So as you look around, you see this sort of thing in many areas back here. These are paper wasp nests, some new, some hatched out from previous seasons. And they seem to be in most of the areas, in the corners. You can see here how even on the hatched out nests, they do have some live wasps on those. They're sitting there because they will probably end up building another nest right on top of that one, leaving it as a base for them to work on. Looks like another one, probably a mud wasp nest in this situation here. Big double-decker paper wasp nest here. All the peaks of the roof have the same problem. There's a new one here, small one just beginning. So we're going to go around and just collect all of these. So here we have more of the same paper wasp nests in the doorway frames. We have spring season here, so what you're going to see is a lot of this, where there's new wasps building brand new nests alongside of old nests that have hatched out. They'll just continue to build in the same areas where previous nests have been built. It's got some eggs in there. So we'll relocate this one. So first we're going to remove the old nests, get them out of the way, and then we'll capture the new nest. It has two foundresses. It's called co-foundress and queen, or foundress and co-foundress. They often build in pairs, Polistes wasps, that's paper wasps, and that gives them a very strong advantage in getting their nest off to a good start in the season compared to having only one foundress, which they often do as well. So we're going to freeze the frame here for a moment just to talk about some of the PPE we wear. That's personal protective equipment that we use in the field. First is an oversized, zippable white sailing shirt or sun shirt. It's white because that's the best color to reflect heat and sunlight away from the body. It's several sizes large so that airflow can get underneath it and cool the body. And it's big enough to wear other shirts and clothing underneath it. That way there's more sting protection. This is a great piece of gear just to keep yourself protected from the UV rays of the sun if you're out in the field all the time. We're wearing bee-suit gloves here. This is because we're handling these wasp nests directly, and we're capturing some of the live wasps on these nests. And when we do these sorts of relocations, even though wasps, like paper wasps, are not very aggressive, stings are rare with paper wasps, we still want to have hand protection because we're handling these nests up close. Around the neck is a neck fan system that runs for several hours on one charge. It's a USB system. You plug it into a wall like a cell phone, and the charge lasts quite a long time. It's great to have that constant air flow around the neck and head and face. It just helps keep the body temperature down in hot weather. We wear over-the-ear hearing protection because the vacuum systems we use can get very loud. And sometimes it's a backpack-worn system, and you don't want that noise in your ears all day long. It can damage your hearing. This is ballistic quality over-the-ear protection, often seen on shooting ranges, and we just find this a lot more convenient to pop on and off rather than trying to use the small foam earplugs you would put into your ear, which is very difficult if you're wearing a bee suit or other headgear. We recommend long, loose-fitting pants like jeans and full leather boots, taller the better. And this is not just for sting risk protection for wasps, it's also for ticks and stinging ants and all of the beasties that can be in this tall grass you see here, which we often have to work in different places out in the field. Tick-borne diseases like Lyme disease are a big deal when you work in the field a lot. So you want to build that into your risk mitigation plan when it comes to PPE. This issue about tick-borne illness is so serious that we're going to show you a real-world example of this right now. This shot was done on May 19th of 2025. We're monitoring a honeybee swarm trap at a different property, and you can see as we are setting up field gear here, there's a blue tarp down to cover up a lot of the vegetation to keep the tick risk down. We're wearing long pants, tall boots. All our gear is set up on the tarp to prevent things from crawling up on it. On this date, we were only on this surveillance site for about 3 hours, and about halfway through that time, within inches of where we were working, we already found a deer tick, infamous for carrying Lyme disease and several other pretty serious disease risks that you don't want to deal with, attached to this larval stage moth. It's a green worm of some kind, probably a moth larva or maybe sawfly larva, something like that. But this is a very dangerous tick, and it was right where we were working. It was removed from the fence and put onto a maple leaf and set aside so we could film it up close and make sure we didn't lose track of it. These things are so tiny. They're smaller, like a sesame seed size, and so easy to lose track of, and they can get right onto any open skin. They can crawl up into clothing. If you're wearing shorts and maybe short socks instead of tall socks and tall boots, you're taking a huge risk in the field. These things will find you. As you can see here, they are so tiny, like the size of a sesame seed. When you're out working and you are focused on your work in the field, it is very, very hard to see these things coming, and they will attack you right away if you have any exposed skin. This is why it's so imperative to make sure they don't find your skin and you cover up as much as you can when you're working in the field. As you see here, they will latch on to their host. In this case, it's a worm. It could easily have been you if you're not covered up in the field. And they will continually move with that host. They're not going to let go. Watch this worm as it tries to walk away. The tick simply moves with it and stays inside the worm. It is literally drinking the worm's lifeblood as it moves along here. Its mouth parts are entrenched in the worm. And they do that to human skin as well. They will not let go. So we didn't want to lose eyes on this parasite, so we just monitored it very carefully, separated it from the worm, and then killed the tick. These things can run fast. You see it here taking off. They run as fast as ants, and they will disappear quickly. So we killed it quickly with a leaf, just crushed it, and then we had to clean up the whole area with rubbing alcohol from our med kit, because Lyme disease and the other diseases they carry are all over the surface where you crush it. So you have to really be careful to sanitize that. So we were very glad that we were wearing tall boots, tall socks, jeans, full coverage on every part of our body. And we had the tarp down so it's easier to see something crawling across toward you. So just take this as a brief warning. We're not kidding when we say you must have some type of risk mitigation built into your work plan. All right, let's get back to our removal here. Obviously the face is exposed here, and that's just because early in the year now, dealing with docile paper wasps that do not have a large colony on their nest yet, you can get away with that. But that would not be the case later in the year when there's a lot of wasps on each nest. At that point, we'd just recommend a full bee suit with veil. So once we retrieved the old nests first, and we got them out of the way of that door frame, we let the new nest with the co-foundresses on it stay in place for the time being while we went around the rest of the property removing old nests. We'll come back later in the video to actually capture this nest with the 2 co-foundresses on it. In the next corner, we found a foundress wasp, a single female foundress or queen, resting here on an old nest that had already been hatched out from a previous season. So we collected her in the collection bottle so we can relocate her and bring her to a safe place miles away from here. In the meantime, we went ahead and knocked down the old nest that was there.
Can't see her very well in there, but she's there. We'll relocate her.
You see the co-foundress is returning. So while she's returned, we're going to capture her. Here we have the nest and the 2 foundresses, but we'll do our best to relocate at least one of the foundresses here, and both if they survive. So you have the original nest on the top layer closest to the structure, and on the bottom layer you have another season's nest that just used the top layer as a base to build on. Hatched out, it looks like. We're going to remove that next. There's another one at the peak of the roof, so we're going to extend our pole up there and knock it down. Here we have another small paper wasp nest, probably a newer one being built now. So we're going to knock that one next. Here we have another paper wasp nest. So we're going to take that one next. This one has 2 foundresses on it so far, maybe 3. So here where the eaves come together at the roof, 2 sections of roof, we have another paper wasp nest, so we'll get that one next. Another roof peak. We have another fairly sizable nest. Probably mostly hatched out from last year, but it may have some new wasps camping out on it. So right up in here we have another eaves portion of the roof. And for that one we're going to go ahead and remove another fairly large paper wasp nest right there. Got some paper wasps to relocate, so we're going to take a look in this one and see if it has any occupants yet. No, doesn't look like it does. All right, so here is the live nest. Let's see what's in it so far. Eggs. Looks like eggs mostly. So this one has only eggs in it so far, but each cell has eggs. So it's a very active nest. So we're going to use a hot glue gun to mount a nest into this vespiary box. We've had nests in here before in previous seasons, so we're just going to clear a little bit of that debris out of there right here and then put the nest right in here. First thing we're going to do is put just a little dab of glue right here. So it'll be set up at the vespiary like this. And when we want to check on the nest, we simply open it up and we can see how the nest is doing. Now we're going to knock out the wasp and just drop them down into the bottom of this container and close up the lid. And they'll wake up and walk right up to the nest. So now we're going to knock out these two metricus wasps. These are Polistes metricus, very beneficial wasp in this area. Very good biological control agents. They help keep the pest insect population in check. They're also good pollinators. So what we're going to do is gas them now to knock them out. A little CO2 gas will replace the oxygen in this container, and it will knock them down for just a few minutes. And during that time period, we're going to get them marked, and then we'll put them into the vespiary container where the nest is now mounted. So while they're out cold, let's get them marked real quick. So with them clearly marked, we'll be able to tell the foundresses from the newly born wasps if they do stay on that nest. And while they're knocked out, we're going to put them in here. And they'll drop down into the bottom, as you see here. And once they come to, they'll come up to the nest. So we're going to set this back where it was. And hopefully they'll go right back up on top to where their nest is, and maybe they'll stick around. We'll see how it goes. Let the other metricus go right here. We're hoping she'll just take shelter right in there. It's raining now. It's a little cloudy. It's the perfect time for her to get comfortable in this nest. There's a nest in there from a previous species but there shouldn't be any others in there yet, so hopefully she'll stay there. So we'll have one new resident there, and maybe a couple new residents here. So here's what we pulled from that location, that house where we removed a bunch of paper wasp nests today. It's about 16 or 17 nests in total. Here's a few of them that we kept. As you can see, these are all hatched out. This is a large double-decker nest. The base piece is from one season. The next piece was added onto that in a different season. So paper wasps, they don't typically reuse nests like this, but they will build on top of an old nest because they use it for base support. So that's pretty common to see a double-decker. Here we are about 5 days after that removal. It's now May 17th, 2025, and we're using a scope cam to check on the relocated nest inside the vespiary box we had set up on the barn wall. And sure enough, one of the foundresses here is still roosted on the nest. The other one's probably out foraging, and it looks like this one will be a successful relocation, and everything appears to be going just fine. And we'll give you updates on these nests as the season progresses. That's it for today's episode. Thanks for watching. As always, if you enjoy the content on our channel, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment to let us know you're there. Have a good one.